What's up, guys? So yes, it's true. Today was the big PAX announcement ArenaNet have been ramping us into for the past 2 months or so. One of them was the announcement of new endgame systems for level 80 players and raiding, which I'll be talking about in another video. You have a link to that on the screen right now or in the description. And also, they had the president of the company, Mike O'Brien, or Mo for short, come on and talk for a while about another new thing, and that is the fact Guild Wars 2 has gone free to play. No, wait, I didn't say that with enough enthusiasm. The game is going free to play right now. If you went to the website this very second, you could download it immediately. You could have a free account. You could make a new account if you forgot your old one. Any of your friends, any members of your family that you ever wanted to get in the game, you can do it. They can play and experience pretty much, if not the entire base game right now, with no credit card or debit card in sight. That said, they do still consider it a buy-to-play game. How is that? Well, that ties into the way they are selling the expansions and relying and banking on people with free accounts to eventually want to play Heart of Thorns and whatever they put out in the future. It's not actually a big deviation from their current business model. It just allows more people to get their feet in the door earlier, and I do get what they're going for. Don't let me geek out about this too much, but as a player of this game who is excited at the prospect of there being a far bigger community, and as a content creator who relies on a lot of people being interested in the game, I am incredibly pumped about this. I think this will be nothing but healthy. There, of course, are perhaps some discussion and concern warranted that perhaps this can destroy our community and, bring in a lot of children that don't understand anything. In fact, I was shocked to see that the official trailer you guys can see in the background, ArenaNet uploaded to their YouTube channel, was heavily disliked straight away. People see the term free to play and they think that this is somehow damaging. And that's what an awful lot of this video is going to be in discussion about. But my mind is set that this is a good thing for the game. Hopefully, I can explain to you why. But first, to tone it down a little bit, talk about the Twitch stream itself, exactly how it was. They rented out the prime stage, or one of the prime stages at PAX, in a prime time slot. They had information even in-game telling people a huge announcement's going on. If you're playing Guild Wars 2 right now, click this. We'll take you directly to the stream. They really pulled out all stops in a way we haven't seen them do since the expansion itself was announced back in February, and they were at PAX South. So how did that reflect on the viewership? It seems that in the actual convention where the talk was going on, the crowd was far larger and far warmer than it was with the expansion reveal. I think, honestly, around February, a lot of people weren't interested in Guild Wars 2. They didn't really know what was going on. It wasn't on their radar because no word of an expansion had come out at all. Now, we're kind of in the situation where a lot more people have it on their radar, and those in the community are a lot happier. And I think we were seeing that really on stage. The crowd was much warmer. There was a lot more applauding. People generally seemed far more enthusiastic. We didn't have something like PAX South where someone in the crowd said,
PvE that's not going to be terrible.
Which turns out maybe they listened to that guy, took it to heart, and then that's why we're seeing what we're seeing at this conference here. Over on the Twitch side of things were alright. The trailer that they played for the raids was horribly laggy, suffered massive frame drops for pretty much all of us, made it kind of difficult to pick out some of the details, which I want to talk about obviously in the raid video itself. But overall, it was okay. There were annoying adverts as well, for what it was worth, advertising like capture cards and stupid annoying crap that we really didn't care about. And viewership was okay. Viewership was actually a lot smaller, even though in the con itself, it seemed like there was a lot more warmth and happiness and more people were interested. For PAX South, the actual ArenaNet talks and presentation, we were about 100,000 viewers. For this, we were about 20,000 viewers. Obviously, the announcements here, in my opinion, even though free-to-play is a big announcement, and even though finally talking to us about the endgame is a big announcement, I don't think it is the same as revealing the first expansion for your MMO that many people didn't even think would exist. That aside, there's really not too much to say about the presentation in general. I was surprised that Mo was specifically asked by Malibu Barbie to plug Pink Day in LA, which is coming up. Those guys put in a lot of effort every year to make sure people know about their event, and they kind of hit the jackpot there. You can't get better than the president of the company during a major announcement telling people to go to your event. But so, enough preamble about that kind of stuff. What were the juicy bits? Now, it strikes me that originally their plans were absolutely to give us the release date of Heart of Thorns here at this presentation on stage right now. They were going to drop it as a bomb and then walk off the stage. It's releasing on October 23rd. And then they were going to leave. I'm positive. But that didn't happen. Instead, if you've been following my channel, yesterday you will have noticed I put up a video talking about the fact release date has already been announced. Why is that? Now, I want to go into this story a little bit here, guys, because I think I understand it fully at this point. Earlier in the week, we had a mistaken tweet go out from IGN. Now, that was their own mistake, but it was kind of a precursor, funnily enough, to another Twitter error that seems to have occurred on ArenaNet's end this time. See, Twitter's got this idea of promotional tweets, specific targeted tweets that go to certain audiences. They work a little different from regular tweets. They're like hidden as regular tweets until you want them to go out. So it seems that what happened was ArenaNet paid in advance for today's announcement. They paid to have one of these special tweets ready to go, announcing the Heart of Thorns release date, and then it was waiting there, prepared to go out. However, a very specific user on Twitter happened to be Googling Guild Wars 2 related stuff, Twitter related stuff, and Google managed to find and pull this tweet that was supposed to be hidden. Then said Twitter user obviously immediately shared it out to 5 big members of our community. So I was directly tweeted, along with a couple of others like That Shaman and Dolphy, the release date for Guild Wars 2 Heart of Thorns, without the devs wanting that to happen. And then, of course, as soon as people saw this, it got retweeted multiple times, and it exploded out. So in a weird way, guys, we were at the forefront of this accidentally coming out, and there was one guy out there who kind of knocked down the entire house of cards, and people don't even realize it. So then ArenaNet reacted by having points of interest yesterday, and Colin came on, obviously very nervous and uppity about it seemed, and talked about the release date officially there, and they had to change Mike's presentation for today. So I was a little bit concerned when he came on the stage here that he was going to act like nothing happened yesterday, and they were still going to try and drop the bomb of the release date, even though everyone in their community already knew about it because of yesterday. Luckily, they didn't do that. Release date was announced. They never specifically pointed out to us all that it was a gaffe, which I'm absolutely confident now that it was. But at the very end of the talk, they did say, yeah, you know, release date is coming this soon. And I even dared to pause for an applause there from people and got like a light smattering because it's obviously old news to us. That's brutal. That's pretty sad to hear that these two big components of this big reveal were spoiled in some way. But with this announcement of the release date, they have now also shown us this new website, a new Heart of Thorns specific website, which allows you to browse through a bunch of information about the game, and specifically will give you more information and media about, a variety of the features. So like the Revenant, the guild halls, PvP, and then because now everything's been announced, we've kind of got the full feature list. Finally, they've got raids and fractal dungeons, which, again, I'll talk about in another video. So release date was kind of stolen away from me. He couldn't talk about that, but what he could talk about was the fact that the game was going free to play. And in fact, it's free to play right now. They did that thing, which is really catching on now, where you make an announcement and you look at your watch and you say, and it's going to be live now. That's fairly cool. Honestly, I think for the majority of people watching a video like this, the majority of people who watch this channel, we already play the game. So why should we be excited about this? Well, do try and consider one thing. Don't think of this whole free-to-play announcement as being in relation to some random guy. I heard Richie Procopio say this on the topic of bundling the core game into the expansion a long time ago, and I still stand by this. Think very specifically, guys. Think of friends that you have, that you told about Guild Wars 2 once upon a time when you first started playing, and they were like, maybe I'll get it, and then they never did in the end, right? Like, we all know someone like that. Or family members, anyone close to you, someone you used to know a long time ago, and you used to play a different game with, but GW2 stole you away, and you didn't really want to go to the effort of convincing them to pay, $50 to try the game. This all gives those people an in, and over time that's going to be a really powerful thing that's going to cause our community to expand in a great many ways. It means mega servers can always have you in a super populated map. It means you will always, even at lower tiers in World vs. World, have great fights and big battles to experience, and it means your matchmaking is going to be strong in PvP. And so I'd also say this is ArenaNet's answer to the kind of trial account, refer a friend systems, which other MMOs have classically had, but this one hasn't before. And so now this is a restricted way for you to play the game in terms of like quality of life features, we'll go to very explicitly in a second, that are mostly designed to combat griefing and botting. And as you'll see, that side of this implementation of free-to-play is heavy. It's very extensive, and I think this could only have worked if they had paid as much attention as they have into restricting free accounts to make sure that you don't get these kind of exploitative practices that botters and gold sellers and just generally nasty people will want to take advantage of. At the same time, because of these restrictions on the account, it means that veteran players and people who have spent their money, they don't feel like they've been slighted in any way. Really, it seems ArenaNet's game plan hasn't changed. They still want that $50 from you, and importantly, they're convinced they will get it. Your base account is restricted, and specifically look at what Heart of Thorns is. It's deliberately targeting end-game progression and continuing updates into the game. Elite specializations for you to continue developing your professions. You won't get those on a free account because you won't have Heart of Thorns. It's got the new rating system that they're adding. The live updates that go into the game will all be Heart of Thorns based, and then that's going to be locked off too. All of that stuff is just going to convince these free players to actually upgrade their accounts. And ArenaNet are confident enough that people will want to do that, to be active members of the game, that they still consider themselves to be buy to play. Now, in some ways, that might sound kind of bad. It's like, oh, we don't get the good stuff unless we spend money eventually. ArenaNet still ultimately want the $50. And yeah, you can say that, but there's a silver lining, a subtle thing, another benefit of this model, which I think may be going over some people's heads, and that is the pressure that this now puts on ArenaNet. By opening their game up and allowing their potential customers to never spend a penny and saying, no, we're confident they will eventually spend it because we're going to make badass expansions, puts an incredible amount of pressure on them to actually make genuinely good expansions. They have a job now to convince us to buy all those future products they make, and that means we as the consumers, as the players, hopefully end up continuing to get high quality products. If ArenaNet slip, then they directly lose their sales and people just stick with the free accounts. Further, before we get into the discussion of people using this maliciously, there is something I'm very excited about for free-to-play, and this specifically is to do with the world of PvP. A free-to-play Heart of the Mists, a free-to-play ability to jump immediately in at level 80 without having to do any grind or anything like that, and treat the game as other esports titles do, where you just get an account and you're playing straight away on the same power level as everyone else, is wonderful. This is going to do an incredible amount for the PvP community. I think it'll be a slow burner. Slowly we'll roll into seeing more and more and more numbers on PvP tournaments. We'll see the matchmaking algorithms in-game work better. You're going to be more frequently matched against people of a close skill level to you, which more people have a positive experience in there. Less of us quit early. More of us are interested in what teams exist and creating teams of our own. More of us are interested in watching streams. More people are watching the ads on the tournaments that they run. The prize pools for PvP events begin to inflate. More people want teams, and it snowballs up and up and up, and Guild Wars 2 actually does have a chance of clawing its way up there and being taken seriously as a PvP game. Excellent. Alright, so those are the perks. This is why I'm so excited about it, but let's talk more about what people can do to game the system. First, let's discuss world versus world, as this is one of the fairly big topics. It's a scary thought that now, because people can make free accounts, if someone wants to be malicious, if someone wants to spy on an enemy server, you know, log in on a different account, they totally can much more readily and go and see what they're up to, relay that information to the TeamSpeak of a different server and cheat, essentially. There are such things as hacks, and people do go into world versus world and hack. These are things that we see happening right now, but they can be more readily stopped, because if someone loses their account, they've got another $50 paywall to go through. It means something more to people. When you swap to free to play, that barrier is gone. And it's not just in World versus World these problems can exist. If someone in theory wanted to maliciously fill up the plains of Ashford with 150 accounts, you know, had some ungodly method of doing this, ArenaNet need to have things in place to prevent this, and those specifically are the account restrictions. And don't get me wrong, the things I've described already are, yes, important, but the number one thing we should have our mind on when we look at these restrictions in a second are gold sellers and botters. These people are usually one and the same, but there's two distinct things they'll do. Number one, they'll spam the hell out of you using free accounts, trying to advertise their gold selling websites. And second, they'll create new accounts that run bots, which continuously farm money for them to actually sell to those people in the event that they can't hack you for it. So they're two distinct things, as well as the world versus world cheating and so forth, that ArenaNet are trying to address. And while they're at it, because this means restricting free accounts, that's more incentive for people on free accounts to want to upgrade one day. So let's see what they're doing. Now, Mike talked about it a little bit on stage, but much better is to go to the new page they have available. You can find this in the description, where they talk about the different account types you'll now have for Guild Wars 2. So you're going to have accounts that have Heart of Thorns. You're going to have accounts that have bought the game, but just the core area, okay? And then you're going to have free accounts. The truth is, if you buy Guild Wars 2 at any point right now, you're just going to get Heart of Thorns for free, so you won't really have a core account. Core accounts are just existing players that didn't already buy the expansion. And because now Arena Network know what they're doing, hopefully we won't see issues like this and weird discrepancies come up for future expansions. But so here are the differences. These are the things that they decided to restrict, and I think they've been fairly smart. So, first of all, character slots. Character slots, if you buy the game, you've got 5. Free accounts will only get 2. I think that's totally reasonable. Free accounts, by the way, will have access to the gem store, and so they could buy, you know, like a 3rd slot and a 4th slot without going like the whole hog to buy the full account. 2 is definitely enough to get your feet wet. It allows you to have a main character that you realize you really enjoy, but also a secondary slot where you can play a profession and then delete it if you don't like it, and then play that profession and delete it, and try pretty much anything you like while still having your main. So 2 is nice. They could have been a lot more stingy about this, just giving us 1. Bag slots. This isn't something I was expecting, but actually makes a lot of sense. I think one thing many of us veteran players of the game don't appreciate anymore is the amount of money ArenaNet probably earn by restricting our banks and our bags, right? Like those character bag slots, they're character bound. It's not like you get an account upgrade to increase your bag slots. And I think that's probably where they earn a lot of their money. People always look at stuff like Blackline keys. No, I think they're microtransactions. They've seen they get a lot from bag slots, and limiting free accounts to only having 3 makes a lot of sense. You've, of course, got the Revenant, which is just a Heart of Thorns feature. Heart of Thorns maps and stuff. Free accounts won't get those. The Central Tyria areas, as we currently understand them for core accounts, and then obviously Heart of Thorns will too. Interestingly, on the free account, they've got a couple of restrictions. Now, this is where we get into the gold sellers and the botters and stuff. You can only be in starting maps until a character reaches level 10. Why did they do that? This is so that people can't automatically generate new Guild Wars 2 accounts and position them all around the world in various hubs of activity where you see a lot of player activity and spam out their messages. You guys might be familiar back when ArenaNet weren't so good at dealing with bots. They're very good at it now, in my opinion. But when it was really bad a few months after launch, you would tend to find that if you used a lot of map chat, you'd get way more gold spam than if you never really used the chat channels at all. And that's because what they would do is these bots would check to see who was talking in map chat, and then they'd spam the people in map chat, and you'd end up on like their mailing lists, right? So that's how they do it. They have to physically detect you somewhere in game, and by limiting you to have to be level 10, have to play to level 10, they stop a lot of that activity. Then also Lion's Arch as well is going to be locked for people until level 35. Seems totally standard. Mastery is not too much to say on. Now, for mailing, for every account ever, if it was created after the 28th of this month, last month, you will have to absolutely use their new SMS authentication. This is something they obviously rolled out. Mo even mentioned this in preparation of the free Guild Wars 2 stuff. But for your free accounts, you will be able to send mails, but you have to friends list someone and they have to friends list you back. And again, this is to stop gold sellers randomly mailing everyone. You also won't be able to send gold or items, and this is to stop the other half of the problem, where gold sellers will create accounts that farm a ton of stuff up. Great, they earned a ton of money, but they can't send that gold or any of those items anywhere. And so you see they are restricted in that way too. Pretty smart. Moving on, you've got guild bank access. Again, this stops botters from being able to use that to trade stuff between themselves. You've got whisper chat. This is to stop spamming. You can whisper people, but you can only whisper a new person unless they're on your friends list once every 30 seconds. Map chat is disabled. That's fine. I think this will limit free accounts in some way. I actually think one of the primary things that's going to remind people, hey, you should buy Heart of Thorns, is when you're on a free account, you're going to try and use map chat, and it will give you a little error message saying, oh, you need to upgrade. You know, I think that will remind people quite frequently. You'll be jealous of people in map chat because you'll be so readily able to read what they're saying in map chat, but you won't be able to respond unless you're close to them in local chat. Squad chat, I find hilarious that they decided to add a thing on there, but that's fine. Looking for group, again, this stops people creating new accounts and spamming LFG up to try and sell their gold. Restrictions for PvP, we'll go through a bit quicker. Here's a big one, and this is World versus World. Now, World versus World is going to only be unlocked at level 60. I think this is fine, honestly. The idea of getting to level 60 on a fresh account isn't that easy. Some of us veteran players will think, oh, of course it's easy. But we are warped a little because we're thinking about leveling characters that are using level 20 boost scrolls, which these bot accounts won't have because they have to be a year old at least. Or tomes of knowledge. They don't come easily. They're all going to be account bound. There's no way that these bot accounts will be able to acquire those. And stuff like even passive experience gain boosts for our account that we've managed to get over these years from getting very high achievement points, bot accounts won't have either. So getting to level 60, and people who want to do this to troll, people who want to do this to spy in World vs. World, isn't the easiest thing in the world. And let's face it, for the legitimate players who are using free accounts, they're not going to really have a good time below level 60 in World vs. World anyway. They're just not. It's really for level 80 players, and they can go to Edge of the Mists before that. So that's fine. Daily rewards, login rewards. I did a video on this. It's a way that people with lots of accounts can just generate tons of laurels and get a lot of money, T6 mats. Obviously, this has been disabled. It would be utterly broken if that wasn't disabled. The gem store, when they sell stuff on the gem store like guild hall decorations, I suppose, and the glider as they give an example here, when they do that and with continuing expansions, if there's stuff exclusive to those masteries and expansions, then you're not going to be able to buy those for obvious reasons. Otherwise, you'd buy something, waste your money, and then they're going to be spending manpower with providing support to people who want refunds. You've got the trading post. You can only buy and sell items. They describe these as common items. Again, I suppose to stop TP manipulation of free accounts. And then forum posting access. I suppose that's a bit of regulation to make sure the forums remain slightly in check. So you can see there are some pretty strict restrictions. But for your legitimate players, pretty much everything here seems a-okay. And most of them, a good deal of them, are motivated by stopping malicious activity anyway. Like, even you can look at the bag slots and think, oh, that's just to squeeze money out of people and encourage people to spend the $50. But think about it this way. The bots that are trying to farm up and get a lot of items that they then merchant, you know, they leave the bot running overnight and then they come back expecting full bags. Well, they're not even going to have that much inventory space to fill up, and it becomes even more annoying and difficult for them to meet those ends. One specific one I do want to talk about that I just skipped over is the currency exchange. This one's pretty interesting to me because it definitely doesn't seem to have anything to do with botters. It's simply about making money for ArenaNet. So you'll be able to trade your gems for gold, but you won't be able to change your gold into gems. So for free accounts, they are forcing you to spend real-world money on stuff in the gem store. That's pretty big. You know, Guild Wars 2 has been able to get away with a lot of stuff for many people because there has never been something in Guild Wars 2 that you could only get through real-world money. There has never been. You could always just play the game a lot and get the gems through that method. Well, for free accounts, they're not giving you that option. They're saying, look, you're going to pay money one way or other. If you want gem store stuff, you're giving us real world money. So this, again, is probably big incentive for free accounts because they're going to play for a while and then they're going to be like, oh, I could keep spending little packets of money on gems, or I could just, you know, I'd just buy the damn game and then my in-game hours spent are rewarded and I can stop having to spend money ever again kind of thing until the next expansion in theory. So that's an interesting one, something that wasn't discussed on the stage and I think perhaps maybe deserved to be. So there you go, guys. That's basically the wrap. As hopefully I established at the start of this video, I'm very excited about the whole free-to-play topic. I think that they've done it very well. I think this is going to be huge for us going forward. My only questions now are what this means for the game with subsequent expansions. Is Heart of Thorns eventually going to get rolled into what they're calling Guild Wars 2 Core when another expansion comes out? Or are we going to be in this weird situation where you've got the core account and then it's like go to this region with this expansion or this region with this expansion, this region with this expansion? That would have been very nice for them to elaborate on, and hell, even word on how frequently they wish to put expansions out would have also been quite nice. I think most of the discussion right now is about the World vs. World stuff. Like, some people think level 60 isn't enough. I think it's okay. There are several things as well you have to consider as well. Spying's been happening anyway, all right, and it's not always enforceably stopped. Servers in the truly competitive scenes are going to be full, so new accounts won't be able to get into those T1 servers as it stands. Also, by the way, their change to the algorithms on T1 servers and to base it more on World vs. World matchups is also no coincidence, is absolutely in preparation for this free-to-play stuff. I've heard the argument made that a lot of time in those intense matchups, even without the use of spies, you know the location of other Zergs, and it's not as important as it was at launch, though maybe I'm not in the most qualified position to make a statement like that. And really, that's the point, that spies can't do too much. Unless this Revenant portal trick remains in the game, in which people will be able to dummy their friends through walls and stuff as a spy. If that stays on the game, we could have some trouble. But otherwise, I think we're actually going to be all right. I don't think this is going to damage our community whatsoever. I think the community is going to get bigger, and I think generally, as communities, as games get more successful, there is more room for insufferable people. But it's not specifically because the game's going free to play. Either way you cut it, I wanted the game to get bigger, and either way you cut it, I think as things grow, then you get a bit more vitriol thrown around. But come on, ArenaNet can't fix everything about the world. One final thing to touch on, and I really don't want to talk about this for too long because it's the same discussion we had when they bundled the base game into the price of Heart of Thorns. This is the idea that I pay $50 for the game already. When can I get my money back? I think if we are a veteran, and it's interesting to me that Mo talked about this on stage, they specifically said, look, that $50 got you freedom, first of all, from all these restrictions they've already described. So you have to consider that. And even if that is not a decent enough argument for you, because those restrictions never existed until now, this also got you access to their 40 Living World updates. Now, not all of them were as great as ArenaNet will try to make out they were, but this did get you access to those 40 updates, and that is worth something. 3 years ago, or whenever you bought the game before, you perceived it to be worth the money, and the fact that now it's free doesn't change that. I would say if you very recently just bought the game flat out, maybe, and I mean the actual game, not Heart of Thorns upgrading or whatever, and now you want to get rid of your access to it and go to a free version and have those restrictions, support isn't going to stop you from doing that. You'll be able to submit a ticket and you'll get those refunds if you're in that situation. And they're not like going to be some monsters that are preventing you from doing that. They were very accommodating before and they'll be accommodating now. All of this isn't even to mention the other olive branch they're trying to throw us with this veteran outfit. You know, they will have seen the backlash from the previous thing, and I have no doubt that that's why we're getting this outfit too. So there's this veteran outfit going in the game also, specifically to reward people who bought the game before the split with the free-to-play option. They're giving us a lot. It's hard for me to be mad about that. Super happy. Would love to hear your opinions, guys. And catch me a little bit later on tonight, where I'll be talking about the raiding side stuff delivered to us by Colin Johansson, also at the same show. Cheers, guys. I'll see you there.